Hey everyone, this is the Tripwire podcast, part of Triple Play Fantasy. I'm your host, Zach, at FF Triple Batman. We got another solo show today, so it's going to be quick. We are recording right before Monday Night Football of Week 13, getting ready to talk Week 14 waiver wires. So if you're just now tuning in, where have you been all season? We're at the end, but that is okay. This is the waiver wire show for Triple Play Fantasy, and the main event show is on Tuesday nights around 6:30. So make sure you go ahead, subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you're watching, and make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss any of the shows when they come out. And if you're on our podcast feed, go ahead, rate, review. Helps us a lot. Great way to support the team. And we are part of the Fantasy Points Media Group. And with that, we're going to get right into Week 14. So we saw a lot of injuries in Week 13, which sucks any week, but really sucks as we get to the end of our regular season going into the playoffs. And for whatever reason, the NFL loves to create a horrible bye week schedule and gave us 6 bye weeks for Week 14. So the bye week teams are Atlanta Falcons, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, Indianapolis Colts, New Orleans Saints, and the Washington Commanders. So all the players so far that we know about that are either injured or affected by this bye week that you need to think about as you go into the final week of the season. For quarterback, you have Marcus Mariota, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Heineke. Jimmy G is out for the rest of the season. Tua has an injury. We'll see what he's going to do this week. And Lamar Jackson is expected to miss at least a week, probably multiple weeks. At running back, we have Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, and Kenneth Walker has an ankle foot injury that we are still waiting to hear about. At wide receiver, Drake London, Christian Watson, Lazard, Pittman, Olave, McLaurin. Burks is coming off a possible concussion. Cortland Sutton sustained an injury, and Waddle sustained an injury, so we do not know their updates for this week. And then at tight end, Cole Kmet, Taysom Hill, Hayden Hurst, and Foster Moreau is dealing with an injury as well. So a lot of players are going to be missing from your roster this week. That's what makes the waiver wire so important. Normally, we talk a lot of fab and how much you should spend. At this point in the season, if you have it, spend it. If you are a playoff team, you're locked in the playoffs, then I wouldn't go crazy. It's always good to probably have at least a few dollars lying around so you can play some defense against your opponents. If you are in a must-win situation, you need to win to get in, or you need to win and get some help to get in, spend everything you can on some of these players I'm going to let you know about that can help you this week. And then I'm talking about some players that will help you into the playoffs, because I understand that some managers are already getting ready for Week 15, maybe even Week 16, if you already know you have the first round bye week locked up. All right, so all these players are under 50% rostered in ESPN leagues. I know every league is different, so I'm trying to cover a wide spectrum for you all. At number 1 for the quarterbacks is Jared Goff at 29% rostered. I know he doesn't sound exciting, but that offense is humming along. They are a great offense, which surprises all of us. But you even added Jameson Williams back this week. Now, he didn't play much as expected, but as they go into the playoffs for the fantasy football, we expect him to ramp up a little bit more. His schedule is why I'm putting him at number 1. So for the next 4 games, he is against the Vikings, at the Jets, at Carolina Panthers, and then versus Chicago Bears. Not a tough matchup. You don't like the Jets in your first week of your playoffs, Week 15. But other than that, those are all great matchups for Goff. At number 2, we got Mike White. He's just under 14% rostered. The reason why I picked him is because of his schedule and his offensive weapons. He is not a great quarterback. He's probably not even average quarterback, but he's getting by. He's got great weapons. So I do not like him this week for Week 14 against Buffalo in Buffalo. But then for the playoffs, he is at home to Detroit, at home to the Jaguars, and then he travels out to Seattle. So you do like that playoff schedule. Number 3, I have Tyler Huntley. He is barely rostered at 0.3%. I don't expect Lamar Jackson to come back this week, and probably not for at least a couple weeks, maybe a few weeks. So Huntley is one of those quarterbacks that if you don't have a quarterback, you can pick him up and start him this week. Not a great matchup at Pittsburgh, but At this point in the season, you might be desperate and you might need any quarterback that is going to start. And that leads me to number 4 at Brock Purdy. He is literally 0% rostered. He gets Tampa Bay in week 14, which you do not love that matchup. But then he finishes at Seattle versus the Commanders and at the Raiders. So up and down schedule to finish the season, but he is just like Huntley. You know he's going to start, at least for right now, and he's got great offensive weapons. Maybe he can just dump the ball down to CMC over and over again and get you some cheap points, just like we were touting Jimmy G for the last several weeks with his playoff schedule. Now Purdy gets that schedule. So let's see what happens. Normally I rank 5 quarterbacks. There weren't 5 quarterbacks that I could honestly recommend for you. Moving on to running backs. Slightly more exciting at the top. So we have Alexander Mattison at number 1. He is just under 23% rostered. I have him number 1 because he would be a league winner. He is a lottery pick winner. He will help you immensely in the playoffs if something happens to Dalvin Cook. He should not be only 23% rostered. He should be on every league. He should be on someone's roster. Whether you're the Dalvin Cook manager or not, you need to stash Madison. And this has nothing to do with him scoring a touchdown this week. You'll love to see that, but it is purely just a handcuff to Dalvin Cook, and then you don't have to fight anybody on the waiver. So I would be spending some decent amount of fab if you have any left. Number 2 is James Cook. Now, if you are in a must-win situation and you need a running back to start, James Cook, you can pick up and start this week. Now, is he going to put up amazing points? Probably not. He's only 25% rostered. But you do like to see his usage that he got this week in week 13. And that's why we're going to chase that, because there's just not a whole lot on the waiver wire. Next is Zonovan Knight at 39% rostered. So he went from pretty much 0% rostered to now 39% rostered in 1 week. And he looked pretty good for the Jets. We'll see how it shakes out going into week 14. He's got an okay schedule. And at this point, you're just trying to pick up running backs that can play for you, and he's one of them. DJ Dallas at number 4 is also banged up himself, but Kenneth Walker, as we said at the top, is injured. DJ Dallas is rostered in just under 1% of leagues, and he might be healthy enough to play. He could be the only running back left in that backfield, so someone to consider, but that's a very desperate play. And number 5 is Jordan Mason at 3.2% rostered. Don't really love him for this week to play. He's more of a stash candidate, maybe to kind of give you a handcuff for CMC, who is dealing with some knee issues over the last couple weeks. Moving on to wide receiver. Michael Gallup comes in at number 1 at 44% rostered. He should be rostered in every league at this point. Is he trustworthy? No, but he looks great. The Dallas offense is humming along. I think they're averaging like 35 points a game since Dak has been back. They are crushing it right now. They have a great matchup this week against Houston. So go ahead, pick up Michael Gallup. You can start him this week. Corey Davis at 11% rostered. I put him at number 2 because of his schedule. He's one of those sneaky guys on that wide receiver group because everyone wants to talk about Garrett Wilson, and then Elijah Moore just feels like he's just phased out right now. Corey Davis is very talented. He gets a good target share. He's now looking a lot more healthier, and he's got great matchups for the wide receivers going forward. So I like Corey Davis. Number 3, Donovan Peoples-Jones at 44% rostered. He looks solid with Deshaun Watson back. Deshaun Watson looked terrible, but we'll see if that improves as we go into the playoffs. So he's one of those guys you can stash in your bench, and let's see what happens. Number 4, Jahan Dotson, rookie wide receiver for the Commanders. All he does is score touchdowns. He's 26% rostered. You cannot rely on his touchdown performance, but clearly he has a knack for finding the end zone, and he is one of those wide receivers you can stash on your bench. And let's see if you need to play him in the playoffs. Hopefully you don't, but at least he's coming with some touchdown equity coming off the waiver wire for you. And number 5, Jameson Williams, 30% rostered. To me, this is one of those players that if you have a deep roster, you're already in the playoffs, Jameson Williams is one of those guys. You should have already grabbed him a while ago, but grab him now. He's still 30% rostered, so he's available in a lot of leagues. He barely played. I don't expect him to play much the next week or 2 either as he gets acclimated to the NFL. He is a rookie. He's been out all year. He tore his ACL in the college football championships last year, so we're still less than a year away from that injury. So I don't expect big things from Williams, but he's incredibly fast. Like if you thought Tyreek Hill was fast, Jameson Williams is right up there with him, maybe even faster. We'll see. But that's the kind of speed that can score you a massive touchdown as we get closer to the championship game. Moving on to tight ends. So we have a different barometer of tight ends on this list. So we're going to go with number 1, Tyler Conklin, 38% rostered, just for the sheer fact of his schedule. He's getting some targets with Mike White now. So if you notice, I named you a Jets player at every level on this list, every position. I don't love the Jets, but their offense has been playing well, and you love that schedule. Number 2 is Greg Dulcich. So the Broncos have been terrible, and Dulcich has struggled after his hot first 3 weeks, starting week 6. He's just under 39% rostered, but in week 13, he had a 38% target share, which you love to see. Now it was a low passing volume, but that still says something. And they had a 42% air yard share, which is incredible for a tight end or really just any player, especially a rookie. Now we don't know how injured Cortland Sutton is. So with Jerry Jeudy coming back from injury himself, Dulcich could be the number 1 or number 2 passing option in that offense. Again, a terrible offense, but at this point, especially with tight end, you're just hoping for target share, and Dulcich is giving you that. Number 3 is Evan Ingram, 35% rostered. He finally scored us a touchdown, which means you'll probably start him in week 14, and he will give you 0 points. But we are chasing anything right now at this point of the season for tight ends. So if you need a tight end, then let's go with Evan Ingram. And then we have Daniel Bellinger at number 4, only 2% rostered. Coming off an injury, he was back. He had 5 targets in week 13, which you love to see. So they are struggling at wide receiver. Really just have Darius Slayton left. So Bellinger is one of those sneaky, really cheap. You could get him for $0 on your waiver wire, where he might end up coming through for you in the next couple of weeks as you go into the playoffs. And number 5 is Taysom Hill. I put him on this list. He's in a bye for week 14, so do not pick him up if you are in a must-win situation and you need a tight end for week 14. But if you do not need a tight end yet and you're playing for the playoffs, he's one of those players at 44.5% rostered that you never know what he can do. I'm recording this right before Monday Night Football, so who knows if he has a crazy game tonight or not. But he has that ability to end up getting a lot of snaps and a lot of touches, or he could do nothing. So you can say that about very few tight ends. Most of them just do nothing. So he's one of those guys you can pick up and stash him for the playoffs if you're desperate. And our DST stream of the week, talked about him a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully you listened. Hopefully you didn't drop him. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 42% rostered. They're going against Denver this week, so you love that matchup. The issue was they were dropped in 25% of leagues for week 13 because they had the Bengals. But I hope you held on to them because check out the rest of their schedule. They're at Denver, then they're at Houston, who made the Browns look amazing on defense, versus Seattle, and then versus Denver to finish off in your championship. You can't ask for a better defense schedule than that coming off the waiver wire. So hopefully you didn't drop the Chiefs, but if you did, check your league. They are available in over half the leagues. Pick up the Chiefs this week. And that is it for the show today. I appreciate you all listening. Hope you all have a great one. Again, keeping it quick. We got the playoffs coming. We will be here to help you with your playoffs, with your pickups. I know that the league's cut in half or more for the playoffs, but we want you to win those championships. So thanks again for following along. You can follow the show at the Tripwire Pod, and you can subscribe to the Triple Play Fantasy channel on YouTube and follow us on our podcast as well. Good luck, everyone. Have a good one. Hope you win your matchups for Week 14 and you make it in the playoffs.